You're a cantaloupe.
5 long years he wore this watch up his ass.
These are my cactuses. I put googly eyes on them.
Sometimes when I'm driving, I have this sudden impulse to turn the wheel quickly, head on into the oncoming car.
Peter Pan has found a mother.
You want me to say what? Like, I don't get it. Is that it?
The ice is gonna break!
Welcome back to another episode of Walken 101, the podcast where we watch every Christopher Walken project. It could be movie, TV show, play, whatever we can get our hands on in chronological order. I'm Kenny Johnson, documentary filmmaker, editor, and we just had our first snow this season.
Yeah.
And I hate the salt on the road so much. It looks disgusting. It gets on everything. There's salt all out in front of our stoop here.
Yeah.
Because our landlord throws stoop everywhere. I go out every day with a broom and just sweep it right off because I cannot stand it. I hate it so much.
Just don't like the way it looks. You think
it gets everywhere. I can't stand your car looks like crap afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just a combination of everything. I hate salt. Just shovel it. Just shovel the snow or just ignore it. I don't know.
Well, you can't shovel. I'm Brandon Hardesty, by the way, actor, content creator, and you can't shovel everything. When you shovel it, there's a layer of snow that is always left on the ground, and then it'll freeze. So you gotta
just drive over it. Be a man.
I think it has a good purpose.
Sure.
I think you're. I disagree with your harsh position against
salt. Can't stand it. Can't stand it.
All right. We'll agree to disagree.
I sweep it away when I see it. Get out of here.
Okay.
Anyway, so what did we watch today? This was a big one.
We watched a 3.5 hour director's cut of Heaven's Gate, which is a Western drama epic.
Yes.
And that came out in 1980, and it's notoriously known as being this huge box office flop. This is Michael Cimino's follow-up
of Deer Hunter.
To the Deer Hunter.
Right. And this is the movie that apparently sank United Artists.
Yep.
Put a damage to Chris Christopherson, the star. He had his star kind of was hurt in the process of making this movie. It was originally supposed to be like an $11 million budget. It went to $44 million, which is the equivalent of $126 million nowadays.
Yeah,
it grew. I think it grossed $3 million at the box office. This movie was hated.
Yeah,
hated back in the day. But I guess before we go too far into that epic flop, we got to give our shout outs.
That's right.
Our Patreon shout outs.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get them up here real quick. All right, before we move on, hold on one second. I just want to adjust this. This keeps falling. Is there a way to tighten this?
Yes, it'll.
This thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That tightens it.
This is falling down on me.
We're still rolling on the behind the scenes stuff back here. I forgot about that.
Okay,
we're rolling behind the scenes for one of our Patreons.
That's right.
Our video here, you can see what we do behind the scenes, which isn't much. It's usually just you'll get a lot of video of us sitting around watching something.
Yeah. And
then we talk about it and we say how far have we gotten into this movie, and you can see in real time our misery, as opposed to us talking about it afterwards. You can see us really just slowly just getting more and more frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, shout outs.
Our walk-in shout outs. First of all, Doug Heavener. Dougie boy.
Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Yes.
And Tom Byrne also. Tommy baby.
Burn man.
And a shout out to Skeletor P. Funk, who is currently the only one donating $10 or more, and therefore the only one watching our behind-the-scenes videos, which our last one ran about 9 minutes long.
We made our own Heaven's Gate behind the scenes.
Yeah. And we were really excited. It was just for an audience of one, and I saw that he commented on the private YouTube link, and he goes, "Hey, great job, guys." So,
all right.
Really glad he enjoyed it, Skeletor, and we got another classic behind-the-scenes video coming at you.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, those are our shout-outs. Thank you, guys.
Yes, and please, if you'd like to help this podcast along, help us out on Patreon. Any contribution you can supply would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. And even $1 a month gets you episodes 1 week ahead of everybody else. So I think that's a pretty good deal.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal.
Throwing that out there.
All right, so a little walking in our shoes.
That's
a little
right.
walking in our shoes. What have we been up to? What's been going on?
It was very Larry David of you. Let's see. Well, it's been a week. Let's see. We celebrated the new year. I'm not doing anything much different. I'm still making the videos for IMDb. I have a lot of work there, a lot of extra work coming in, which is nice. And I've been eating nothing but potatoes. Yeah, my wife and I, we've been training and eating well for like the last 5 months of last year, and so we were just changing it up a little bit, and we found this guy on YouTube. He has this website called SpudFit, where he ate nothing but potatoes for like a whole year for health reasons and also for weight loss. So I don't know, I'm just trying it out. Maybe dumb, I might get scurvy, but I'm 8 days into it.
Is that really how you get scurvy? You eat too many potatoes?
I'm actually not sure. When I told another friend of mine came over the other day, and he saw what I was doing, he goes, "Jesus, you're gonna get scurvy." So it started it. So, but yeah, so far I've been enjoying just trying to make potatoes in every possible way: mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes,
Delicious.
Oven fries.
What about French fries?
You can have French fries, but again, no oil.
It's got to be like
You can add herbs and shit like that.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well,
this might be incredibly dumb or a waste of time, but I'm gonna see what happens.
Well, you gotta let us know.
I will. I'll let you know a week from now. It's going all right. I've lost a little bit of weight.
Good.
I think it's working.
Good. Nothing's been going on with me.
Nothing at all. You're not even going to try and.
I'm going to try to think what's happened. Nothing. Yesterday was supposed to film something.
Yeah,
but we got snowed out a little bit. It really wasn't even that much of a snow. It was just more of a inconvenient type of thing. You know, it's like I didn't want to have to hassle and have to drive in the salt because if there's no snow here, it's just salt. We just salt. There's more salt than snow.
Yeah,
I have to deal with that. Drive down, and do an interview with he is a ghost inspector.
That's right. You invited me along to this, I want to say a month or so ago, where there's a group of ghost hunters and they converge every once in a while in somewhere in Annapolis.
Yeah, it's like Southern Maryland, and what they do is they help kind of educate people on. They do inspections on a house.
Right.
There might be a ghost.
Ghost.
We're gonna help pass it along to the other side. So I was gonna talk to one of the guys who's I guess he's a medium about spiritualism, all these kind of things, because it's a little bit of a not to mince words, it could be seen as a scam a little bit. Is there any way to really prove that they're talking to somebody on the other side? Is there even an afterlife? Those type of things I wanted to talk about.
Well, the scam thing. As far as them offering like ghost hunting services, or them like doing this ghost hunting and going into supposedly haunted places and recording it, they do it in their free time.
They do it in their free time. They do it for free, and they do it in their free time. Like they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, which is another interesting thing.
Yeah.
When you have. I think of like all the mediums out there who like, it's Miss Cleo on TV and she's going to talk to your uncle and tell you that you're doing okay. Your uncle's spirit, he's helping you. And, that's I think what a lot of people think. And I wanted to kind of go into that and, is that true? Are they giving mediums a bad name or a bad rap? And like kind of go more into that realm. Because he actually was talking about how he did this. He went to one house and he discovered there was this double murder there. Like this horrible double murder investigation and stuff. And he was able to, I guess, talk to some of the spirits and help them pass on to the next side. Which some of it's just so bizarre and so out there. And that's what intrigues me.
Well, I remember what you were telling me when we were talking about like what would the angle of the documentary be, and it wouldn't be trying to prove that ghosts are real.
Correct.
It would be trying to prove that they really do believe what they believe.
Correct.
And I think and make it more about them, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm always better at. I'm better at telling a person's story, and letting them kind of tell their thoughts and letting people gauge it and kind of make their own conclusions. Speaking of conclusions, conclusions on this movie, it was shit. Right off the bat.
Well, when we were in our last podcast, we were talking about how, well, I mean, you were going into it. You had read up on all of the bad stuff about it. You had looked at the Rotten Tomatoes rating.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an extremely polarizing film.
Yeah. Which the Rotten Tomatoes rating,
it's like 57. So it's like right down the middle, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have people who really like it and really love it, and then you have people who are like, this movie is terrible.
Yeah, I've read both, like masterpiece, piece of shit.
Right, and this is, like you're saying, Cimino's follow-up to Deer Hunter.
So they gave him whatever the fuck he wanted.
Right. What do you want? Okay, I want to make a period piece with each shot is going to have a minimum of 100 extras, all in period clothing. There's going to be a lot of dancing involved. There's going to be a roller skate scene where we're going to take 6 weeks to train everyone how to roller skate. Yeah, that's a good use of money and time.
I mean, yeah, our first impression of this movie, you turn it on, and within the first 15 minutes, the scope of it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And at first, it's really impressive. You're like, oh my god, look at how many extras are here. And there's this big, beautiful dancing scene to the Blue Danube Waltz, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Right.
But then after a while, it gets a little distracting, and at some point,
you just get lost.
Yeah, like you're not listening. It's hard to pay attention to the dialogue and the characters.
Right.
Because there's so much other shit going on. There was even a scene where Walken is talking to Chris Christopherson, and there's just a dude that they're in a building, and can see out a window, and there's just a dude in the background out of focus juggling bowling pins.
Right.
And it was super distracting.
No point to it, other than, I mean, it's just a beautifully composed shot, and we have this dude in the background juggling. So I guess we should tell you a little bit about the story. The story is super simple. That's the crazy thing. The story is very simple. It's based after this book called The Johnson County War. And back in like 1890, it's in Wyoming, right? So a lot of immigrants were moving into this small county, Johnson County. And this rich association, what were they?
The Stock Growers Association.
Right. They're pissed off at all these immigrants. Like, fuck these assholes.
It's very timely.
Very timely. Make America great again. That's what these type of people were. And so they had this list of 125 immigrants they wanted to exterminate, like literally kill, because they had violated, they've actually stolen cattle, they've done this, they've done that. And they're like, well, as opposed to just, arresting them or prosecuting them, just genocide. We're just gonna genocide.
Just straight up
kill everybody. Yeah. Chris Christopherson is the lead in this movie, and he's coming right off of like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. He's kind of building his steam in the 70s. This is 1980, so it's like, okay, he country singer, but he's a good actor. Yeah. He's on his rise, right? So we're gonna put him in this big epic movie. He plays the lead. He's kind of the hero. He's kind of the defunct sheriff leader of the town. He is also from this rich background, but he likes to mingle with the immigrant, the poor folk. Yeah. He falls in love with this madam of a brothel, and then there's also Christopher Walken, who falls in love with her as well, and he is hired by the association to go kill some of the people.
Right. He has a gun for hire, the first time we see Christopher Walken, our first impression of him is a mysterious shadow through a sheet, and there's this kind of scared immigrant on the other side, and then bam, shotgun blast, hole in the sheet, the guy's dead, and you see Walken, his cold dead face staring at him, and then he just rides off indifferent on a horse, and you're like, okay, is this our villain? What kind of character is this? A little mysterious. And then we get to learn more about him later on.
We get to learn more about him. There's interesting themes of immigration, the whole love dynamic, the great American dream, come to the country, you could do whatever you want. But my God, does it get completely lost in scenes that are just, you have these villages that they probably, the whole city they probably made out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Super period, super true to the time. Huge structures, and I'm talking hundreds of extras in the background doing something all over the place. There's chaos, and it's, Chris Christopherson just, okay, you got to walk from point A to point B. And I guarantee you that shot probably took a week to get, because there's just so much stuff happening
This
in
bustling
the
town full of immigrants, and on one hand, it does help communicate something. It's not some of the shots would not be for show if there weren't just multiple shots of them. Like, to show this bustling Wyoming small town and it's full of immigrants, it makes sense to see this huge crowd of Chris Christopherson walking through them. But then the scenes get redundant, and we're watching, and like there were several scenes where the point is to show Chris Christopherson is kind of a man of the people, and this town is full of immigrants, and he's he's kind of a figure amongst them. But there were several scenes that communicated that we didn't need, including the 6-minute roller skating.
So pointless.
Scene.
So pointless.
I mean, also it's all so beautifully done, but it's like a great lesson in you need to have the script tight to begin with, so you don't waste money shooting shit you don't need.
10 stories of excess from the production of Gates of Heaven. Ready? I'm not gonna read all of them, but I'm just gonna give you some idea of why this movie was just so excessive.
Okay, all right. So this is off of denofgeek.com. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we mentioned the budget, how it ballooned to $44 million, which is the equivalent of $126 million. Ebert completely slammed it at the time, gave it 1.5 stars, and said it was just how in the world they're kind of saying Cimino is a one-hit wonder at this point, really damning him. Everybody hated this film. They pulled it from theaters apparently after a couple of weeks. It just wasn't making money, and critics were just destroying it in the box office.
Wow.
All right, so like we said, the cast spent at least 6 weeks learning to roller skate in a pointless scene. Cimino would pick and arrange the extras one at a time for every scene. Okay, now that is insane, because we shit you not, there's scenes in there where there's probably 100-some extras all in period pieces dancing together. So if he's doing one at a time, that just take hours.
And he hasn't even delegated that task to his first AD. He's just doing that himself.
Yeah. He would order a minimum of 32 takes for certain shots. A minimum. Okay.
No, wait. Does it say whether or not he went into it saying, I want 32 takes, no less? Or that's just what ended up?
It just was kind of the average number, it seems like it says. So,
oh my God.
There was an entire day spent shooting more than 50 takes of Chris Christopherson drunkenly cracking a whip in a hotel room. The shot in the finished film was over in a matter of seconds, but 50-some takes, and it took 5 days of filming.
I remember that scene, and that took 5 days. That's ridiculous.
So there's a giant battle at the end, and that's right around the time we started losing our interest, because it just kind of, once again, it just got lost. There was an interesting story buried in there between this love triangle and the immigration thing, but it didn't come together. There wasn't enough time spent on it. Instead, we got these beautiful, gorgeous shots of just fucking. Every other shot was like that, with smog or fog and dust. But they insist on shooting the final battle sequence in a field 3 hours drive from the production space of operations. So the crew had to wake up at 3 a.m., drive 3 hours to the place, and then shoot all day. And they would wait, apparently hours on end, for the right clouds to roll over.
Wow.
So the key grip remembers we'd start work at 4 a.m. With a dawn shot. We shot in the morning and the dawn was there. Then the clouds came in and we lost the light until it was totally overcast. And we waited and we waited and we waited and we waited and we sat and we sat. And so think about it. The crew and stuff, they're getting paid time and a half, all this stuff. Their extras are sitting there in their clothing. Hundreds of extras just sitting there waiting. So Michael, the director, was waiting for the weather to clear, and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we hadn't had lunch yet. This is the key grip talking once again. And So they hadn't had lunch yet, and the director reportedly said, "Lunch? This is bigger than lunch." So that's like an infamous.
This is bigger than lunch.
Right. So yeah, it was. There was reportedly on set 16 accidents in one day, and you'd believe it because they were just like, if you're a fan of animals, do not watch this movie.
Oh yeah, but didn't you say that the reason that we see a warning at the end of films that say, not a warning, but like a tagline says no animals were harmed in the making of this film?
Yep.
This is a direct result of the production of this film.
Yes, because they were horses were killed. Apparently, a horse was blown up with dynamite, and it was actually in the movie itself. Like they left it in. It's terrible.
There was a cockfight as well.
Cockfight. Yeah, I mean, apparently the Humane Society like sued the production, the producers, the director, the movie, the studio, and they settled out of court. So it was not good. And so yeah, Cimino shot 1.3 million feet of film by the time the film ended, and that's an insane amount. Yeah. They were apparently 6 days over schedule or behind schedule, and at one point in like the first week. And they had only maybe shot about 1.5 minutes of usable footage. So it just kept ballooning and just getting way out of hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some of the stories. There's documentaries about the making of this.
Yeah.
There's books written on it. It is the story of the making of this movie is more interesting than the movie itself.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the reason we're here. Walken.
Christopher Walken. Now, Walken's character we established, so he's like a gun for hire.
Yeah.
I really liked him in this movie. I thought he did a great job. The only downside, I think, is that there was a little bit of he was talking normally, which was fine. Just his average kind of slight New York accent.
Right.
But then there were a few lines where he put like a little southern stank on it, and it was kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, his character, it's established that he's this gun for hire, kind of killing immigrants, and as he's wrestling away kind of a cattle that this other immigrant is stealing, the immigrant says something to him along the lines of, well, you're a hypocrite. Look at you. You're one of us, and you're implying that there's some kind of heritage that Christopher Walken's character is not acknowledging. And so there was an interesting thing there, although that didn't end up going anywhere, actually.
A lot of the film, unfortunately, the story and the characters really went nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there was parts where Walken would appear like a badass and then kind of have that scene that you just mentioned, and then he disappeared for about an hour.
Get out of here before I blow your brains out, married man. You're very lucky you're not dead already.
Take it easy now, mister, huh? My family's starving. You know that.
That don't give you room to steal.
You look like one of us. You work for them?
I'll decide what I am. I'm not gonna kill a kid still pisses in his pants. Now get on out of here.
Yeah, he did for about an hour, and then he came back into the fold when Chris Christopherson is in love with this madam of the whorehouse,
Right.
And so is Christopher Walken. It's established that he kind of comes back, and he's jealous of Chris Christopherson. He wants to take Ella, is that her name?
Right.
He wants to take Ella away and kind of marry her. And so at first we really don't like him, but then he becomes likable because he eventually sides with the immigrants in the end and kind of dies in this, spoiler alert, dies in this kind of fiery Bonnie and Clyde-esque gunfire.
Yeah.
But I really, I get my notes here. I really liked his character. There was a certain thing that he did that was similar to, I think, the thing he did in, what was the one movie about? Next Stop Greenwich Village.
Yeah, he was the cold kind of calculating bad guy a little bit.
And he also, there was this thing, I got the impression from a few subtle things he did that his character really cared about his appearance and the way he came across. Like the way he dressed, the way he walked, he always had like one hand in his pocket and kind of walked with this kind of style. Mm-hmm. There's a quick scene where he's with Ella and he takes off his hat and he kind of adjusts his hair a little bit. And there's even a point where he goes and he sees Chris Christopherson has fallen asleep drunk in his bed, and Walken picks up Christopherson's hat and kind of looks at himself and admires himself in the mirror and says, yeah, I'll give you one thing, you got style. So it's like, I got the impression there was a subtle thing that Walken did where he kind of like his character in Roseland too, where he kind of cared about the way he was put together in general. But and going back to how, so the movie has this huge budget and 1.3 million feet of film. So as an actor, if it weren't for the fact that Michael Cimino was apparently some odd perfectionist and trying to Kubrick it up here,
Right.
it seems like it would be fun to be an actor and be in a film like this, because the world is just so immersive and you have so much room to do something. There was one scene I saw where, so Walken and Christopherson, they're kind of fighting over Ella, and Christopherson and Ella leave the house where they were having this fight, and Walken is kind of left there. So it's the end of the scene. But directors will do this a lot, where they won't say cut, they'll just kind of let it go and see what the actor does. And so Walken's left there to kind of stew for a moment. It cuts to Christopherson and Ella, and they have a quick exchange, and then it cuts back to Walken, and he's sitting down, which implies to me that Cimino just kept it rolling until Walken eventually sat down and had like this moment of thought to himself. So like there were moments like that made me think like it must have been fun sometimes being an actor on this film, because you were allowed to it felt like a real world. It felt like there was just
apparently he would stop production to like work over specific things like that. Like, like, oh, okay, well, we got to teach you how to shoot a gun now, or hold it this certain way, or ride a certain way. They called it, I think, the Cimino camp, where it's just like weeks, months were spent training the actors to do a certain thing. And I think because of that, like, once again, production went over, well over budget and over schedule. John Hurt, who played one of the smaller roles in the movie, he left during the production of it to go film David Lynch's Elephant Man.
Okay.
And once that finished, the Heaven's Gate was still going. So he could come back and keep working on the scenes that they needed him for.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to me. It's so ridiculous to me. Honestly, that would drive me insane. If I was working behind the scenes in production, and like we're spending all this time waiting for a certain cloud or the actor to like really get into something, like that's not fair, because I'm like, I show up, I'm here doing my job. You should come your shit together and do your job, Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I imagine it was really frustrating to be a member of the crew.
Yes.
Fun, maybe fun for the actors, not so much for the crew.
Yeah, but creating a world like that is incredible. To when you see the stuff that they built.
Yeah.
They built probably a city. They built cottages. They built these things. Apparently, they even watered the earth in some areas to get the grass and these purple lilac bushes or flowers a certain way. So, like, when you see that stuff put on film, it's impressive, and it definitely makes you go back a second. Like, wow, that's incredible.
And I think walking onto a set, like, my acting teacher always talked about this one interview he saw with someone from Game of Thrones, where they're talking about how, yes, it takes a long time to get into the costumes and the makeup. It's hours and hours, and then we get in a helicopter, and then we get to this one location in the middle of nowhere. But then once you're there and you look around and you're, what's his name? It plays Jon Snow, and you see the set and you see the mountains and you see the costumes and all the money that's put into this, you just feel like, wow, I'm part of this world, and it helps you get into character. Yeah. So, like, I imagine that it was easy to get into character if this world was so intricately detailed and created. So from that point of view, kind of cool.
I don't understand you. I do not understand you.
There's a lot of things you don't understand.
You begin to sound like a man with a paper asshole, Jim.
Still one of the biggest flops in cinema history.
Yep. Yep.
Tanked horribly. I mean, this is up there. And when you go Google search biggest flop in Hollywood history, this is one of the movies that come up. And you'll probably end up seeing is a screenshot of Walken in his deathly demise.
Yeah.
He's holding a gun, a flaming cottage behind him. He's got a bench, and he's looking all crazy. And they're like, Heaven's Gate, one of the biggest Hollywood flops. I saw that picture all over the place. So it looks like Walken's picture is now infamous with this movie. But apparently he escaped this movie unscathed.
Yeah.
Didn't affect his career, I guess.
And I was curious about what he thought of it. You know, I tried to look up some interviews, and I found a few recent ones. This was 2012 on IndieWire by Eric Cohn, and he says to Walken, I wanted to ask you about Heaven's Gate, since there's this new Criterion DVD out with the director's cut, which is the one that Kenny and I watched today.
Yes.
And it seems to be getting a whole new wave of attention. What do you make of the legacy of the film, and do you think it's better and a good thing that this new other cut of the film is now being presented to the world? And so Walken says, I wasn't there, but I was told there was a screening for a big audience in New York a couple months ago, and it's supposed to have gone really well. And the movie, in some sense, has been vindicated. I always thought it was good and never really understood the beating that it took at the time. I don't know how old you are. I'm talking to Eric, I guess. Mm-hmm. But that movie seemed disproportionately beat up at the time, including by people in the business. I never understood that. It always seemed extreme. It certainly was always a beautiful movie to look at. Often things are... excuse me. Often things are not as bad as they are touted to be, and also not as good as they are touted to be. It's always a little too much one way or the other. So there's nothing bad to say.
Yeah, maybe people were a little bit jealous because they're like, oh, Cimino, the old whiz kid, you know, this is his third film, maybe something like that. So it's like,
maybe I think he'd done a few more before Deer Hunter.
Maybe, yeah, okay. So he, you know, after coming off of the success of Deer Hunter, you know, the studio giving him carte blanche to do whatever, you know, maybe some people took it as, this motherfucker. So they were just waiting for bad news to happen, and then they see that it's like massively over budget, and like, oh, there it is.
Although the same thing happened with, I remember when you watched the documentary Heart of Darkness about Apocalypse Now, critics were already blasting it, like they wanted it to, it's almost like they wanted it to fail.
No, but then Heaven's Gate was his third movie, by the way. It was.
Oh, really?
He did Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, Deer Hunter, then Heaven's Gate. So yeah, they were positioning him to be like the next kind of Coppola, Spielberg. You know, everyone was like, you know, this could be the next big thing. But yeah,
he had this trajectory going. Another interview with Walken, where he's talking about the production of it. He goes, "When we went, this is for Rolling Stone, May of 2016 by Corey Grow. When we were making it, everybody was very optimistic. We were in a very beautiful place, a kind of paradise place. I don't know if you've been to Glacier Park, but it's one of the places in the world that's so beautiful. The air is so clean. The colors and objects are visible over great distances with great clarity because of the quality of the air. I've only seen that before in Nepal." Sorry. So we were all there, and then it came out, and there was all that controversy. It's interesting, all the talk about the money spent. That movie cost $36 million to make, which in a way is pretty ordinary. So then Corey responds, "Some critics seem to have come around to the film in recent years. Does a critical reception matter to you?" He goes, "Yeah, sure it does. It does to me."
Interesting. So he does care.
He does care. So maybe he was a little when this. So if we're thinking about where he was at this time in his career, he's just coming off Deer Hunter. This is immediately the movie he does after it. Maybe he was a little worried about his own career, about his own about how people were seeing him after he had done this flop.
I mean, he was good in it though.
Yeah, he was. He was solid.
He played his typical, I would say, the mysterious, like, I don't know. He seemed like he had this underlying intensity to him. At any point, he could just pull out his gun and just kill somebody if he wanted to.
Yeah, that seems to be.
He's the coolest dude in the room who could just kick your ass.
Yeah, totally.
So,
although I do seem to, that seems to be something that up until now he's been doing a lot. We've seen that several times.
Yeah,
and I feel like maybe we're starting to see a little bit of the man behind the curtain here as we're watching more and more Walken, because people watch the highlights, you know.
Right.
A lot of people are more familiar with the highlights, the Deer Hunter, Pulp Fiction, Catch Me If You Can, things like that. But as we're watching, maybe there's a little bit, we're starting to see the gears too much. Because this is about the third time he's pulled off. He's brought out, I'm going to do the mysterious underlying character. And
Because Shoot the Sundown was kind of like that.
Shoot the Sundown,
Roseland a little bit.
A little bit of that.
Like his mystique kind of. That's a usual gimmick that he pulls out, I feel like.
Well, my acting teacher always talked about how, when you accumulate skills as an actor, you learn things, and you eventually, if you're self-aware enough, that you are good at a few specific things. And there are a lot of other things that you need to work on, but there are a few things that are in your wheelhouse that you can really pull off well.
It's your shtick.
It's your shtick. And when you get the right audition, you can pull in, you can reach your hand down into your bag of tricks. That's what he called it. So, so I think this is part of Walken's bag of tricks. Is he knows that he can pull off this mystique very well, and have it come across on screen as this underlying tension where you're not really sure who he is, and it's a little intimidating. So maybe this is, it's just something that he uses, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So overall, it was difficult to watch. Like in the end,
the end got more difficult for me. I was into it for at least on a medium level for a good portion, but
it had a lot of good elements to it, but it also had a lot of frustrating elements to it. So now I'm actually really intrigued to watch the documentary. It's called The Final Cut. It's on YouTube somewhere. Someone, of course, illegally uploaded it. So
awesome. I'm
intrigued to watch it, because I maybe I'll grow a better appreciation for the movie after I watch it, or maybe I'll grow a better I'll loathe the movie even more after watching it. I don't know. We haven't done this in a little bit. We haven't done our star rating.
Oh yeah,
out of 5.
That's right. We haven't been consistent with that. So out of 5,
how many burning cabins out of 5 would you give this movie?
I don't know. I feel like every time I give a number, you're like, really? You give it that? So,
go ahead. See, what do you say?
Oh man. All right, but we can go halfsies between like a number.
Yeah, go halfsies.
I'll say 2.5.
Really? You give it 2.5? That's probably what I would give it.
Yeah.
I would probably give it 2.5.
You got to give it some credit just for the fucking scale of it.
Yeah. The massive amount of humanity that was on screen for some of those things.
And
speaking of burning cabin, hold on.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about how Christopher Walken dies, right? In this movie, burning cabin, right? It's a massive shootout. So there's this kill squad of just they're gonna kill the whole town, right?
Yeah.
They get to Walken's cabin, and it's filled with 2 or 3 dudes kind of living there, and so they're shooting it out. Mickey Rourke's in it, by the way. Young Mickey Rourke, he's in there with Walken. He gets shot, and they burn the cabin, right? And so Walken takes out a piece of paper, and he writes this love letter to Ella. And by the way, we didn't even mention who Ella was played by, but I'll tell after that.
Yeah.
Writes this long letter saying, I'm sorry, the cabin is burning down now. If I don't get a chance to see you guys again, tell Ella that I love her. Today wasn't so good. I can feel the blood trickling down my leg. It's just really long letter while the cabin's engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
He tucks it in his pocket, and he runs out for his last shootout, and he gets blown away with a million different people shooting him. And then his love, Ella, finds him and takes the letter out. And of course, the letter hasn't been shot.
Yeah.
It's just a very long letter. I don't know how he found all this time to write it. It should just been goodbye, I love you, Ella. That would have been it. But no, it's very long, unnecessarily long letter.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Okay, so who played Ella was actually, I believe at the time, Michael Cimino's girlfriend. She is actually kind of somewhat of a famous actress. She was French. She could barely speak English at the time. Isabelle Hubert? I don't know. But you've probably seen her in a bunch of things. She's in this one movie out right now that's called, I think, Elle? Right? Elle? And it's directed by, I think, Paul Verhoeven.
Who's that?
Same guy who did RoboCop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like the recent RoboCop? Or
No, the original RoboCop.
Oh, wow, okay.
Schlocky kind of films like Starship Troopers.
Okay.
Showgirls.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love Paul Verhoeven. He's an incredible director, severely underrated. RoboCop is, in my opinion, a masterpiece.
RoboCop's awesome.
It is phenomenal. Great commentary on the Reagan years. But anyway, he directed this movie. He's getting a lot of award buzz, I guess, and she is as well.
Yeah.
So
she was solid in Heaven's Gate. I liked her. I went into her. I went into it.
You're right.
Like you told me, oh, it's his girlfriend, and I thought,
right.
But she was good.
She was fine.
A lot of shots of her nude, though. I will say, Cimino loved the
weird,
a little weird. He goes, I really, really want other people to see you.
And then she gets raped too.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
One of the more graphic.
Yeah,
that's up there with the get the butter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I just learned about that. Did you hear about that? About how the actress
apparently wasn't told that was going to happen.
Wasn't told.
And Brando and Bertucci were in on it and said, just go to town on her.
That's so not cool.
Yeah, it's not cool.
With that Last Tango in Paris, right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's sad. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Going forward, what are we watching next?
What are we
watching next?
Dogs of War.
Dogs of frickin' War.
I don't know anything about it other than it looks like a war movie. It looks like, well, The Deer Hunter was good, so let's get him in another war movie.
I'll tell you what this movie is.
Yeah.
It looks like a very specific genre film.
Okay.
Action genre. It's got Tom Berenger. He co-stars in it. Mercenary James Shannon on a reconnaissance job to the African nation of Zangaro is tortured and deported. He returns to lead a coup.
Ah.
So maybe that's Walken who gets tortured and he's like, I'm coming back for revenge.
Oh, so maybe this is our first kind of campy Walken movie that we'll see.
Oh, God, look at that poster. It's him holding a grenade launcher with flames in the background.
To be fair, that looks like not the original poster. It looks like the more recent, all right, we got to release this on DVD. Let's just put Walken's face on it. And
Tagline, cry havoc and let's slip the dogs of war.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't understand that.
All
These
right.
are all foreign posters. It looks like a super schlocky type of movie.
How long is it?
I bet you it's 90 minutes. 142, yeah.
All right.
John Irving was the director. British director. He's done a lot of those type of... He did 1991's Robin Hood. It's not the one that I thought it would be.
Not the Prince of Thieves? The one with Kevin Costner?
No, it looks like he did a lot of straight to DVD movies.
Straight to DVD universe. That's where we're going.
Yeah. The Fourth Angel with Jeremy Irons and Forrest Whitaker. I don't know if that made it to the big screen or not.
It's
but
something you see on a red box as you walk out the door.
This looks like a red box movie we're about to get ourselves into.
So,
which could be fun.
Yeah.
We haven't really... We've seen some bad ones. Shoot the Sun Down, Last Embrace. Shoot the Sun Down was your least favorite. Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, Last Embrace close second. But
Last Embrace was mine.
So after this, Last Embrace is still at the bottom of the list for you as far as the worst things that we've seen.
I think so. Yeah. I really do. It was really hard to sit through that one. Roseland was interesting. The Kojak series, that was terrible.
At least it was short.
The Sentinel was, once again, Sentinel was short. Next stop, Greenwich Village. Annoying New York kids, but at least Walken was good in it. And it was short. Oh, God, the Mind Snatchers.
Oh, yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah,
I remember that one, too. That was so bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Fuck. Yeah.
But as far as what's been your favorite Walken performance so far? I mean, besides The Deer Hunter, I'll say that, because I think that's probably the best one so far, considering it's the Oscar-winning one.
It's tough, because it's really... Anderson Tapes was the Sidney Lumet movie where he was in it for a split second. That wasn't that bad, but he wasn't good in it.
I think so far my favorite of his is that his performance is Roseland. I liked him.
Yeah, that movie was good, sort of. The Sentinel. You know what my favorite one was? The Sentinel, when he played Detective Number B.
That's your favorite performance of his?
What do you say, like 2 words in it?
Yeah,
Didn't we struggle to find lines?
Find
to
an
put in
audio
there?
clip. Right. It was something like, I even forget his line.
Can't even remember. Yeah, I'd say Roseland. Roseland was pretty good. I'd say Roseland was up there. I did like his performance in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
In Heaven's Gate, you know, he was good in it. Mm-hmm. He was kind of cool, you know, especially his introduction. It was badass.
Yeah, he had a good like Western, you know, intro. It was
Boom!
like,
right through the curtain. Mm-hmm. He's dead.
But that shot took a week to get down.
God. All right.
Now, I have something I really want to read to you.
Oh, this is a good one.
All right, so this is our segment, Secondhand Walken, in which we explore people's anecdotes about Christopher Walken. Could be true, could be bullshit.
Right.
This one, I found this and I sent it to you. I was like, I want to. As I read this, I'm going to read this in the woman's voice. I'm not going to do falsetto, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to try.
Effeminate. Yeah.
And I want. I'd find some music to put behind it, like some mood music. And when I finish reading it, maybe you'll get a better idea of what kind of music you put behind it.
Okay, so we gotta get some mood music. All right.
Okay. So this is a woman named Vicky Reed, and this is on her Tumblr, vickyreedphotography.tumblr.com.
It's great that we're plugging it too, but
little plug. And she wrote this little, you know, article here. I was Chris Walken. Wait, it happened to me. I was Christopher Walken's dresser. So she little backstory. Looks like she was working on a play as his personal dresser, and this may have been back in the 80s. It's hard to get a time period on this, but this is a younger Walken, I believe. My wardrobe supervisor got the new schedule. All right, okay.
all right, yeah. All right.
Christopher Walken was the lead in Coriolanus at the Public Theater, and he needed someone to be his personal dresser. I begged to be his personal dresser, even though I had had mishaps with zippers and nightmarish...
Wait, what? Read the nightmares with what?
I'm sorry.
Do that part again.
Even though I'd had mishaps with zippers and nightmarish quick changes in one-on-one situations with actors.
I wonder what that means. Nightmarish quick changes with them, so penis falls out.
I think just working as a dresser on something like this, a lot of high pressure situations. Okay. Walken didn't want to share a row of public dressing tables, so stagehands. God damn it, I can't. So stagehands built a shack in the adjacent loading dock floor next to the theater's green room common area. It had everything but a roof. The cast wore modern minimalist costumes for this interpretation of Shakespeare. Chris didn't like his costume, except for the massive, fantastic black leather duster. He told the director he'd wear his own imported black silk trousers, shirt, and loafers. Hell yes. Chris created the mad French supermodel hairdo he's so well known for. Every show day, depending on how tired, stoned, or drunk he was, the plot of the hair on his head aimed at a different compass point. The sound of his blow dryer was like blasting a boombox, and he moved like it was music as he pulled the shanks and blasted the heat. Even though he was the star of the play, he only had 2 changes in the show that required my assistance. I had to meet him right outside his shack with shoes and his duster. He'd usually greet me with, "Vicky, my angel." It was better than the few times my folks were nice to me. That's a little dark. A little dark history there. All right.
I was beaten regularly. Left in the closet.
Okay. Also had to connect in the Voms, a dark tunnel under the stage. Chris would approach me in the purple dark-lit Voms, removing his silk shirt. It was my job to throw a small purple woman's bathrobe on him for the next scene. I noticed that he'd stationed paper cups all over the voms full of red wine. The brew stained his teeth and thin lips.
Brew? What? Why is she writing like this?
I know, it gets really extravagant the way...
Flowery, just good God.
Scary in the purple dark light, until he started miming the grabbing of my boobs from 10 feet away, falling over, laughing in a wheeze. Not for all, but most shows. His musk is implanted in my brain, consisting of sweaty actor, red wine, and Tabasco shooters.
God,
And then in
it smells awful.
Parentheses after Tabasco shooters, for his voice? Question mark? She's speculating. Silk slathered with deodorant. During the day before showtime, he'd hang around swaggering like a 6'2" Elvis on light feet. No one knew how to act around him because he's not normal. Chris is a sparkling maniac that transcends just being in a room with somebodyness. He's a showbiz sphinx, but totally just a guy from Astoria, Queens, simultaneously. Astoria was the other part of the Coriolanus kismet. I lived off the same main street in Queens where the Walken family bakery and bar dwelled. Chris made the connection when I gifted Walken bakery danishes to the green room. Coriolanus was also timed to run during the Christmas holiday season. The last show before Christmas break, and true to this young girl's dreams, it snowed in New York. Not a blizzard, but John Cusack snow.
Why?
It lands on his lips as he's trying to convince some hot girl that she's really the one. He looks skyward, begging her to answer before he freezes to death. That kind of Manhattan snow globe movie moment. Being just 22, my supervisor told me to expect a traditional personal dresser tip. I think he also said something about getting my boobs in Chris's mouth. Being tact-free, I harassed Walken during every besotted wardrobe change and any passing moment about my tip. He was celebrating the break from our show schedule and letting go hard and early. Show was over. No tip yet. This is blurring the lines. I feel like it's gonna get slash fiction. This is a story where he fucked her under the moonlight or something.
It sounds like a Penthouse story or something that somebody would submit their sexual fantasies. Of
Totally.
Oh God.
I ran into his shack without knocking, in a hurry to get home too. I smelled the joint he and two friends were passing around from the knot roof. Heading down, grabbing shoes and wardrobe, Chris referred to me with a wheezing laugh. See, she wants some too. I stopped, took a deep drag off his purple weed. He gave me the roach. I guess this was my tip. Arranging his shoes at the wardrobe rack, I was stoned, and there was Chris telling me my name. I looked up at him. He handed me a card in a red envelope. Then he asked me if I needed a ride home because he had his nephew bring his new town car and it's snowing, and no need to take the subway. We find ourselves outside on a store place, staring at Walken's new big black Lincoln. Chris, who's been shooting Dixie cups of hillbilly jug red wine and sucking weed most of the evening, orders his nephew to, "Get out! Give me the keys! I want to drive!" I know we have to cross a bridge over very cold water to get to Astoria. Pot makes you paranoid, and I had the additional benefit of having a paranoid hallucination that was real. Chris pressing and clicking buttons in his new car, not knowing how to use the thing yet, laughing as he goofed around.
Ha! 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 Hey, look at this! Hey! Oh, no.
Checking the mirror, I saw the nephew and the kid's girlfriend sitting in the back seat, saying aloud through mind control, "Oh look, another bimbo girl Uncle Chris is making me say hello to." Why would you think that? She just sounds very insecure.
Very insecure. Chris sounds a little rapey at some of these scenes here. Oh, man.
Then as we get onto the snowy, slushy road, I suddenly remember that scene from Annie Hall, where Walken's character is driving a terrified Woody Allen from the airport, asking if he ever also thought about driving into oncoming headlights. I was so fixated on how high we all were, how insane this was, and how jealous my mother would be, and how fucking disinterested out of spite my brother would be, and how deadly envious my failure actor boyfriend would be deep down. Fuck's sake!
Oh my god.
I'd forgotten to tell him my address, and he'd passed my basement apartment dwelling. I'd already opened his card while waiting for him at the theater. Now I could rub it in my boyfriend's face, along with my genuine Chris Walken roach, which he said out of envy probably contained PCP. Getting into her head a little bit here.
Wow.
We're getting there. Almost done here. Inside the card was cold hard cash and a note. I wanted to get you a see-through negligee, but my wife thought this would be better. Love, Chris. His handwriting had the same personality as his hair. I loved it. I ran into Chris in Hollywood a few years later. He had espresso and wine. I think I stuck to a cappuccino. My hideous 78 Chevy Caprice didn't kill the flirt in him. He might have been worked up staring at all the chicks in spandex tube dresses. I supposed he wondered why I dropped a note to his waitress as he sipped breakfast outside Book Soup and traded calls to plan a hello. He, a huge, incredible person, made the time for me still. I signed the note from Vicky, your angel. As I got ready to make an awkward, embarrassing exit, I'm so awkward. God, I'm such a piece of shit. He dawdled with my shirt collar and stole a trace of a smooch, but I resisted. My imagination finishes that night in a wholly different way. A better ending to the story, but I know it's not the end. My ego prefers to sleep with the plan to meet again. I long to be so special. There was one night after Coriolanus when special guests galore came back to pay homage to Chris. Al Pacino, Rebecca De Mornay, Anthony Zerbe and partner-S, John effing Hurt, and Mikhail effing Baryshnikov, Chaz Palminteri.
She put effing hurt in between them.
Yeah.
Okay.
F''ing.
You good fucking actor. Anyway.
Usually everyone ran to the subway once out of their costumes. Tonight, everyone found a reason to linger. So here I stay, waiting for my story with Christ to come full circle. I don't know if she meant to write Christ or Chris, or maybe she's implying a little...
It's a little bit of a Freudian slip there.
Waiting for my story with Christ to come full circle as we meet as comrades in a green room surrounded by magical people like him. And myself, of course.
And that's how Christopher Walken got his first restraining order.
There's so much... again, like the flowery language, I think...
Oh my god, we can make a whole podcast just on that note alone.
I think the basics of the story are probably true. He drove home kind of high in his Lincoln. She was his dresser. He joked around with her, gave her a tip, and she does have a picture of this note that he wrote her, which Christopher Walken writes in all caps except for his eyes. It's interesting to note. I don't know. I'm just it was something that stood out to me as I'm looking at this note. So yeah, that was our.
What was the Tumblr's name again?
VickyReedPhotography.tumblr.com.
Does she have any other stories about like actors or famous people she's like
I don't know, let me go. This was only one post. Let me just go to her Tumblr. It's called Underground Sky. Oh, there's a picture of her. Oh no, this is just her photography.
How are her pictures? Are they at least good? Are there any pictures of Christopher Walken from like a faraway window with a telephoto lens that she's like shot through the bushes at night and he's like putting on his shirt, getting ready to go to bed?
No professionally done photos, although there are a few behind the scenes photos of her and Walken and like him in the cast, and what looks like a photo of him in the dressing room, and he is bent down looking under his legs upside down at her. So looks like that's it.
Fitting.
I feel like I need a round of therapy after that.
Good God.
All right.
Well, if you want to donate to this podcast, visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/Walken101. Next podcast, we are watching, what was it? Dogs of War?
Dogs of War.
All right. You ready for that one? As always, we want to give a special shout out to Rent a Perfect Productions for letting us some basic equipment to make and record this podcast. If you're looking to work on any videos in the Baltimore area, any updates to your website, you can reach out to them at myrender.com. We are on iTunes.
That's right.
We are on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe, you download, give us a couple of ratings. Let us know how we're doing with this podcast. And go check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Walken101. Like us on there. We're going to start posting some pictures and some videos. You got to see these behind the scenes videos. They're a delight.
Yeah, they're absolutely, they're classic. They're treasures.
Classic. All right. That's about does it for us. Anything else we want to plug? Anything else we want to get in?
I'm good.
Good. I'm good too.
I'm spent.
This was a long one.
This was a
long day. We started at like 9:00.
What time is it now?
It's 3:00.
This was like a full-time job. We just decided to work on Sunday.
All right. Well,
All right.
As always, thanks for walking with us.
I represent the full authority of the government of the United States and the president.
Fuck him too.
Thank you.